Well, are we on?
We are on. That's your cue.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Panoramic Perspectives. Say that 3 times fast. Yes. My name is Carl Johnson. This is my partner, Elise Gianmarco Carlson.
And we are Panorama Paranormal. Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, all these P's in paranormal. Panorama, parapsychology. We're going to explain a little bit about what we do, what we're about. We are, of course, a panorama. Panoramic Perspectives means, the whole encompassing scheme of things and what we're going to look at. And we're a paranormal investigative group, but that doesn't really narrow it down. So what makes us a little different? I mean, all groups are unique. They all have unique personalities. And I think it's because we center on, we take a parapsychological approach. And what can you tell me about parapsychology?
What can I tell you about parapsychology?
If you can't,
it is, well, when I started in my whole interest in things weird, wonderful, and unusual.
Thank you very much.
You were included.
Yeah.
Saw you on Ghost Hunters all those years ago. But I looked at everything from the Loch Ness Monster to, the Nazca Lines. You name it, it was weird. I read a book about it. I watched a show about it. I saw a movie about it. But what it kept coming down to is I just really took an interest in things that were caused by humans, living, no longer living, people with special abilities, people who are everyday, normal, really don't, never tried to have any special abilities. So parapsychology is the part of what they call the paranormal realm that takes that into account, because they only study ESP, which is mind-to-mind communication, psychokinesis, which is mind over matter, and the possibility of the existence or the continuation of a person's consciousness after the death of the physical body. Now, there are some parapsychologists that are materialists. They don't really like to think about that third part. They don't really think it exists. They only concentrate on the first 2. But I find that all 3 kind of wrap into each other, because we have, even these hundreds of years later, no definitive answers on any one of them.
Yeah, well, that certainly narrows it down. Interesting that some parapsychologists, or people that deem themselves parapsychologists, students of parapsychology, are not so much interested in the plausibility of an afterlife, but they will explore ESP, remote viewing, things, propensities of the human mind that are not normally explored. But as you say, I think it all ties in together. And it should be noted that to date, despite what you see on popular paranormal television shows, or, in discussion, most people have those interests, the afterlife, or even ghost, the existence of life after death, consciousness transcending the human body, the life of the body, has not yet been proven. We've been at it a long time. Modern parapsychology and, actually modern paranormal research had its origins in the 1840s and then got more solidified in the 1860s. But we still really can't prove that there's such thing as a ghost. There's a lot of evidence, a lot of suggestion of it.
Well, since you started right in with the what is parapsychology question, I do have a little graph here that everyone can look at. There are the 3 different areas of parapsychology. You've got ESP, or what's called receptive psi, being able to receive messages through means beyond normal means that we are used to, that, fall into line with the science that we know. And these include telepathy, clairvoyance, people who can see things, precognition, knowing something's going to happen. Radiodicha is another fancy word for dowsing. Hauntings fall under ESP because in parapsychology, hauntings do not mean apparitions running around saying boo. In parapsychology, a haunting takes place with the energy from a living person kind of invading a physical location. Expressive psi, also called psychokinesis. You've got people who can make poltergeist, make things happen. Their energy is transferred to make things move. People who have telekinesis, people who can materialize things, even psychic healing falls under this. And one area where effects have been replicated is random number generators. It's an electronic device that people have been proven in a laboratory setting. That's where the science falls in. Because they can be replicated, they can make these random number generators not be so random. And then, of course, you've got the survival theories of of parapsychology, and all these different things fall under that category. Near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, apparitions, mediumship. Then you've got your physical and mental mediums, which I don't really hear a lot about physical mediums anymore. There's nobody sitting in a cabinet blowing a trumpet. Hey, if anybody does know somebody doing that, let me know, because
that was more popular a century
really
ago.
Interesting, and that's the kind of behavior that inspired people to kind of discredit mediums, and they've had a hard road coming back.
Who would do that? Oh my word!
So, what did you want? How about? We did say we were going to introduce ourselves in this first episode. So how about we start with you, since you've been doing this?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Ken DaCosta, who is our producer. Ken is here, but he's not. You could see him with a FLIR camera under the lens, but he's our ghostly mentor or enabler, let's say. Oh, yeah, he enables us.
He's our ninja.
Yeah, there's the ninja. Now, what have I done? Well, I am a paranormal investigator. That's a broad term. Who specializes as a demonologist. That means I address some of the darker, more sinister-seeming phenomena that's brought to my attention. I don't always have answers for it, but sometimes groups will contact me and say, "Oh, this is beyond us. It's over our heads. You got to come in, Carl." Yeah, like, wow, okay, I'll help you. But we work together as a team when I'm called in, and that's we make progress on that. But I suppose I was officially ushered into the realm of paranormal investigation upon meeting Ed and Lorraine Warren at Rhode Island College, and that goes back away. That was April 1972. Now, from the time I was 15, I was maybe even 14 if you count my Ouija board play. I was investigating the paranormal, and some strange things were happening in my parents' home. Basically, I was raised, young picture of me like last year. Yeah, basically, I was raised in a sporadically haunted house. Most days, of course, were business as normal, as usual, but there were times when strange things did happen in my parents' home, like furniture being moved around, strange bangings on the wall, candles being snuffed out and then relighting themselves. My mother was taking a drink of water. Now, this had to be quite some time ago because my sister was in a high chair, and she's 3 years younger than my twin brother Keith and I. And she was taking a drink of water. She said, I got something stuck in my throat. I'm going to need some water. So my father got her a glass of water. She went to drink it, and we heard, we all heard that. What's that? And the water was gone out of the glass. So we termed that the thirsty ghost. And a glove, a strange lacy lady's glove, appeared in the middle of the hallway. And, nobody recognized it. Where's the other glove? So I put it on the kitchen table. Next time I went to get it, it was gone. Little things like that were happening, but my brother was hearing ghostly voices outside of the bedroom, running around the house. And, yeah, so some odd things were going on. So it was always an interest of mine. And then I heard of the ghost hunting couple, that's what they were called then, Ed and Lorraine Warren. They were already renowned. So I said, I have to see these people. So I was age 17, and I went to the college, and they did not disappoint. Now, Mr. Warren began with a question and answer kind of audience participation segment. And he says, anybody out there ever practiced the occult? I think he asked, has anybody used a Ouija board, a spirit board? So I kind of shyly raised my hand. I said, has anybody ever practiced the occult? So I'm a little older then. Has anybody ever done a magic spell? And he's asking questions like this, so my hand goes up. He said, come up here, young man. Well, that was the start of things for me. I remember listening to the Warrens. I said, that's who I want to be when I grow up. But I came up on stage, and Mr. Warren asked me more questions. And yeah, in fact, just 2 days ago was the anniversary of Ed Warren's passing. We still miss the Warrens. I mean, they had a long and fruitful career. But, and Mrs. Warren only left us 2 years ago now. It'll be coming up 3 years. But I got to know the Warrens better. And that evening at Rhode Island College, I was approached by a group that actually had organized the lecture, the Warrens' appearance, and that was PIRO, Parapsychological Investigatory and Research Organization. Fancy name for their little group. And PIRO was the resident paranormal investigative team at the college. So I was asked to join PIRO, even though I was 17. So I came to their meeting on that Tuesday, probably took a day off school for that, and became an active member of PIRO. And we wanted to explore residential cases. We had been going out in exterior settings investigating Druid's Dream. There was the ruins of a church that had burnt in 1970 in Johnston, Rhode Island, which I've been to since then.
Chapel of the Good Shepherd.
Chapel of the Good Shepherd, yeah. There are pictures of that downstairs in the museum. And the group heard organ music. I wasn't a member then, but some of the group heard organ music playing from coming from the church. So some residual haunt there, perhaps. And we went to some interesting places, saw some fascinating things. But we wanted to get into investigating people's homes at their requests, and people wanted their homes evaluated for their haunting they felt they had. To that effect, my brother placed an ad in a local periodical, and 3 weeks to the day afterwards, we had a response from a Mrs. Carolyn Perrin, who resided in Harrisville, Rhode Island, and they had a farmhouse on her and her husband Roger on Round Top Road. And we invited her to come to the college. She did, and interviewed her. And then we went to her house the next week, and well, we commenced an investigation, and eventually the Warrens became involved because I had lectured with Ed and Lorraine Warren. My best memory of the Warrens is when they had dinner at my parents' house. That was funny. That was nice. It was warm. It's like they'd always known each other. My father had Ed Warren laughing. What's that you said, Lynn? And Mrs. Warren was like, oh, Beverly, your curio cabinet. I must see some of those. What is this from? Well, that's the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. My great aunt had that. Oh, my word. So it was just nice side of the Warrens to get to know. And I lectured with them a couple of times. So then things became more intense when we were investigating in 1973, the Perrin household in Harrisville. You may know that as the Conjuring House. I wish they could get away from that misnomer. It comes from the movie. It's not the Conjuring House. It's the
I bet
farm
you
on
that's a nice
Round Top.
Frank Grace picture.
That's a Frank Grace. He did that.
Frank
He does
Seagrace.
wonderful. Yes, Frank Seagrace,
Mhm.
my buddy there. He does good work. And yeah, so we, at their request, we investigated the parents' house, and we got to experience some genuine paranormal activity there. My first strange experience in that house was while we were interviewing Carolyn Perrin and her daughters, 5 daughters. They're telling us about the strange goings on, the apparitions they saw. And I heard moving around upstairs coming from the girls' bedrooms. And I said, after a while, I said, excuse me, Mrs. Perrin, do you have company upstairs? And she said, and she and the girls said, no, we hear that a lot, almost every day. So I waited for the interview to recommence, and I kind of backed off and I went upstairs. So looking around up there. Now, it's kind of a hallway where the girls' bedrooms were positioned. And I'm looking around, and the noises ceased as soon as I reached the top of the stairs. Ooh, that's interesting. I know I heard something up here. And I was up there about a minute, when out of my right peripheral vision, I saw a darkness. It just looked like the absence of light. There's something dark. Because I reflexively turned, and something was kind of rolling down at me. And I thought, oh my, there's a fire in this old house. I'm going to smell smoke. It's a backdraft. We're done for. So it encompassed me, and then it was gone. I didn't feel any emotion associated with it except startlement. And I came back down and gave my brother the look, the twin look, like something's up there. And well, then we came upstairs, and our team leader, our team, what would I call it, case manager for this, she came upstairs and with some coaxing because it was kind of an eerie setting and she was a little nervous about that. And so Donna came upstairs, Keith, myself, and we're upstairs in the bedroom. Roger had showed me a window in that one of the bedrooms, and it couldn't be closed. It was jammed open. Strangely, it was August. It was sweltering up there. They didn't have any air conditioning. But that one room was very chill, and it shouldn't have been because the window was open. It was hotter outside than it was inside. And I tried to close it. I couldn't budge that. Well, my brother came in, and he tried an experiment with religious provocation. He recited a psalm and said the name of Jesus. Right then, boom, maybe happy coincidence, but that window slammed shut. And then we heard, and one of the girls, I believe it was Nancy, had welts on her face as if she'd been slapped. So, well, we've got some activity here. Now, I never felt that activity was enough to drive people out of a house. But then again, I wasn't living there. We were just having a good time investigating. I went downstairs to the cellar. I was the first one to do that. And while I was down there, nothing remarkable occurred except the single light bulb they had then went out. So there's a 18-year-old Carl down in the dark, like, oh, but I could see where the stairwell was. So we had fun that day. Now, for 2 months, we were conducting what we considered, to the best of our means, a scientific investigation, in that we were photographing, documenting, taking notes, trying experiments, and continually interviewing the subjects, the homeowners and their daughters. But, and we thought it might be a good idea. I think my brother came up with this idea. It'd be a nice idea to invite Ed and Lorraine Warren. Well, not so much invite them, but to consult them and benefit from their vast experience. So the Warrens were told about the case, and they actually invited themselves. They volunteered to come. I said, oh, goody, goody. We're going to be working with Ed and Lorraine. I remember being on the phone with Mr. Warren. I said, I understand we're going to be investigating this house together. We brought you into this. I said, oh, yes, indeed. So the Warrens came up. I remember greeting them in the gravel driveway, and they came into the house and received a tour from Carolyn Perrin. And it was just a very enjoyable evening. And what I didn't know was that was the last time I would see most of the parents, actually any of the family, for the next 40 years. I've been in the house since then and had been several times, but I wouldn't see them for another 40 years until the movie was being produced, The Conjuring. So that's pretty much how I got into the paranormal research, and I was a member of TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, for 8 years. I was on the show Ghost Hunters, as was my twin brother, for the first 2 seasons. We were the demonologists. It was funny when the first few episodes, they would show, they showed all the investigative team, all the cast of characters, and they would show myself and my brother, and they had our names reversed. I was Keith and he was Carl, so that was kind of cute. And eventually I left the show because it became, my reason was it was too much about the television show more than the investigations, and that was just inevitable. But they were real investigations that were documented. I had a good time with it, did it for 2 years, and then I left of my own accord. And oh, now that's it. We're a little blurred.
Look, it's Carl then Keith.
Yeah, it's Keith and Carl. Oh yeah, it does. Our names are reversed. Carl and Keith. That's us doing the episode, the demonologist. But like Bigfoot, I guess we have to be blurry. And
kind of like gas station attendants with those shirts on.
Yeah. So, I shouldn't backtrack and say my first residential case, of course, was that house in Harrisville. The second residential case I was called into was a case of full-blown demonic possession. However you want to define it, that's what it was, demonic possession. And I thought about it a lot, reevaluated it, causes and all that. But yeah, here we got with Carl and his brother. Here's some of the scariest investigation. That's true. Yep, possessed boy.
That's what you're talking about, correct?
That's right. That's what I'm discussing now. Well, we'll call him Lucas, because that was his name. And there was a house in the west end of Providence, and in the Armory District, and I knew the family. They were of Hispanic origin, although Lucas was born in New York City, and he was 13 when this seemed to take over him, this other personality. And I hadn't seen him go into one of his episodes before. He was 14 when I started addressing this case, and I was invited to stay overnight because they knew Even then, I had a reputation as someone who would stand his ground and not run out of a house when something happened. So I stayed the night, a little apprehensive, not knowing if anything would really happen. Boy, did it ever. Because it was, I guess, around 1 in the morning. And I was reclining on a couch adjacent to the boy's bedroom on the third floor of this house. And I was dozing, starting to doze off. All of a sudden, I was startled awake by this blood-curdling scream. It sounded like somebody being flayed alive or somebody that had been set on fire, this horrible screaming. So I jumped off the couch and fumbled for the wall switch, turned on the overhead light. As I did so, Lucas's bedroom door opened, boom, and out came his body, doing things that he should not have been capable of. He was twisting and turning, and his body was spinning like a dreidel. He was careening against the walls. And he even did a spider crawl up the wall and then flipped it backwards. And because of his screaming, his mother and father came into the room. And I'm standing there transfixed. I mean, what do? You watch, you try to make sense of what can't make any sense. So Lucas did a backward flip and landed onto the sofa where I had been reclining. And he did this unearthly, guttural laughter just came out of his throat. And he looked at me, ferocity, like staring into the face of hatred. He was like a wild animal. He jumped at me. I was trying to restrain him without injuring him, so I held him down. I was, my usual weight, 200 pounds. He pushed me right back off effortlessly. And then he came to his senses, but he was terrified, panicked, crying, sobbing, calling for his uncle, who had also come into the room. And so they helped him out. He didn't get back to sleep that night, I don't think. Neither did I. So an exorcism, well, not so much exorcism, but an expulsion was arranged. It had Catholic prayers, prayer cards, all that, white candles burning. What my brother didn't know, and I didn't know, that it was going to be Santerian, because this boy's godmother was Santerian. She was from Dominican Republic, and she had spent some time in Haiti. So there were trappings of Santeria, but it all came together, and it was a weird and wild scene. I remember looking at a picture of Jesus on the table, hoping that would distract the boy, because when we started the expulsion, well, we were seated in a semicircle, and my chair with me in it moved back against the wall. Just me. I had been in the center, and it went back to the wall. Then this boy fell to the floor and went into his motions. And, well, it was a horrendous scene for the next 2 hours. And I remember that picture of Jesus on the table, and I was hoping he'd look over there. A minute later, when I looked at that picture, it was upside down. I didn't hear it invert, but it turned itself upside down. And I felt like I was being taken over for a while, but I said, no, I'm not going to let this get the better of me. No one could see it, but I suddenly felt this alien emotion, this onrush of fear, terror, and anger, or rage. Why am I feeling this? I feel like I've had a drug, but I didn't. And I just concentrated on my own sense of self. Then this feeling seemed to leave me, and it went into a young lady who was also in the room assisting, and she fell to the floor and started tearing out her hair. So something was happening in that room. I have different explanations for it now, but it all came together. The boy started to come toward me at a certain time, and he was doing like the Dracula approach, wild look in his eyes. So I just I put my hand on his shoulder and I told him, it's all right, you're okay. And he was. And he was free of it after that. So psychodrama, suggestive, genuine demonic. Yeah, all of those is happening. So over the years, I've been invited to investigate or participate in a number of investigations that had sinister leanings. And people felt it might be demonic.
Regarding that case, there's a question up here. It says, was there any indication of what was the point of entry of this spirit into Lucas's life?
Yes, there was. He had gone to a cemetery in the West End, not far from his house, the West End of Providence, and he found a glove. It's had a history with gloves. They seem to bring things in if you take them home with you. Lucas picked up this glove. Didn't know why it would be in a cemetery, but he brought it back home. His godmother was there, and she told him that that's evil. You must bring it back. There's something attached to it. So he went to bring the glove back, and that had gone. And gloves have a way of disappearing, huh? One of them, anyway. So that's when it seemed to start, because it wasn't long after that he would scream at night and act differently. But it did seem like something was taking over him. I thought it was what we used to call dissociative personality disorder, that he had split personality, that combined with maybe some level of epilepsy. So I thought I had it all diagnosed, but nothing explains what we saw in that house.
Did his family ever acquiesce to having him diagnosed or examined, I should say?
They brought him to a counselor. They brought him to a psychotherapist, but I don't think it was so much of a physical examination as just a psychiatric evaluation. They didn't know what it was. They said, well, he's 13, 14, so he's going through a formative stage, an adjustment. But I think a lot had to do with his background, because in their culture, they embrace a belief in spiritualism, and that spirits can be brought in and spirits can be expelled, and some spirits are wicked. So I think that's what happened to him. I think he was going through that formative stage. But it became real. There was a real spirit, because you can't explain through psychology how religious iconography was like flying around and religious pictures dropped off the wall, and that picture of Jesus inverted itself. But you can explain it through psi, through the expelling of energies that affect the environment. And I think that's what was going on.
Poltergeist activity.
Poltergeist, one of my favorite terms in parapsychology. Noisy ghost, German contraction word for a rattling spirit, a noisy ghost. And poltergeist, I think they're underrated, because they can do a lot. We think of, there has to be an adolescent. Well, we had our adolescent, 13 and 14-year-old Lucas, going through some trauma, some upset. Yeah, he was establishing his own identity. And maybe that was his rebellion, the poltergeist. But why was it doing the things it was doing? Why did it take over him? Poltergeist shouldn't possess people, right? Only demons do that. Poltergeists can emulate a human voice. Sometimes poltergeists speak. Poltergeists can appear as something similar to an apparition. They can make a ghost. They can tie up curtains and bed sheets to look like mannequins. They can do remarkable things. They're not just throwing dishes around, although I have observed that. If you ever have the chance to observe a poltergeist in action, I highly recommend it. They're hard to find, but if you're alerted to one,
but
like
most things in parapsychology, once the person is alerted to what is going on and is aware of it,
yes,
it usually stops. And that is the whole problem with replication of this kind of activity.
You can't dryly investigate paranormal and psi phenomena in a laboratory, at least not consistently or successfully. Sometimes you can isolate results and establish commonalities, but to actually get a poltergeist to act on cue or any of this to happen, rarely and never consistently. It's just not the nature of this.
Nope.
Elise, you've never seen anything like a poltergeist? Well, you did experience something that might have been psi activity.
Well, it could have been. I have no idea what it could have been. There was, something moved when somebody said a name of a person who had lived in the location where we were, and so something moved.
Well, it's more to it than that. I think you should tell the story.
Again?
I like it. Yeah, I've heard it, but I like it.
Ken's heard it a million times because he was there. It was my first public investigation, and we sat down in the kitchen of a very old house with an air conditioner running, so we didn't have any recorders running. A woman mentioned all the names of the people who lived in the house, and when she got to a certain name, Westcott, there was a display that had an easel, which they're slanted backwards. The easel came tipping forwards after she said the name. And I was the lucky one sitting in the seat that got hit in the head with the easel.
Right when she said Westcott.
So I haven't seen too many things go on in all my investigations, but I like to say you don't have to hit me over the head to make me believe in a ghost.
Just so happened.
Apparently you do.
With you, it had
right.
it have
So that
to.
was my one. I do not have a colorful past of all kinds of activity going on like you do,
Yeah,
but I have other things
really
that I bring to this team.
You have a lot of learning.
Other than your, there is nothing wrong with having all kinds of experience. I mean, all of paranormal investigations are based on experience. I like to say that there is no reason to go walking around something that's just a creepy looking old house, something that is just a cemetery, or something that just, oh, it feels evil in here. If you don't have any reports of activity, anyone having an experience that needs to be explained, don't waste your time investigating. Just, you're going to go walking around thin air saying, hey, ghosts, anybody here? It just usually doesn't work that way. And I think we have enough reports of... I'm sorry, I just read that comment.
Yeah.
Fun fact, they were going to cast Carl's character in the movie The Conjuring, but they couldn't get Brad Pitt to agree to the role.
No, you wanted too much. Yeah, no, I don't do
Oh, that's a good one.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I did have a very handsome gentleman portray me. Yeah, he played me big time.
Well, we did say we're going to introduce ourselves, so
yeah.
A lot of people do ask what the heck I'm doing here.
I know what you're doing here. You came up with this neat lighting. That's what you're doing here.
Oh, God, it's not good. It's in my eyes. But like I said, I grew up just loving all kinds of weird things and watching In Search of with Leonard Nimoy and studying the Loch Ness Monster and the Bermuda Triangle and anything weird that happened. I would be interested in it. So as I grew up and older, I was always still interested reading books and watching shows. But, you know, life had other plans. I want to be an Egyptologist. Yeah, I don't like to... What is that?
That's somebody calling us through the computer, but we can't really
weird.
talk now.
No,
I mean, do leave a message.
I'm afraid if I click on that we will lose where we are.
So
just kind of ignore it.
Yeah.
So I still had those interests, but I went to school and then I went to college. I was a criminal justice major. I got a few jobs. I was a 911 operator for about 10 years. I got married, had kids, and now once the kids were up and gone, and I was watching people do investigations on television, and they looked like they're having a lot of fun, and I was like, hey, why not me? Really didn't have any, my plan was not to get on television. My plan was to, do some investigating and walk around and hope that something would happen. As I mentioned, my first public investigation was with Rise Up down in Warwick, Rhode Island, and I was hooked. So what I brought, even before I started studying parapsychology, was I'm sorry, she threw me off. The woman.
Do it, yeah.
Oh my goodness, she's got to stop calling. You can probably turn that off on your phone.
My phone?
Yeah, it's behind us. What I bring is I've got a lot of life experience in different topics. I've run property. I was the manager for a condo complex. I was always very hands-on at home. I'm the person who fixes everything in my house. I'm, just kind of a jack of all trades person. I find something interesting, I learn all about it. I worked not only as a 911 operator, I am now an historical society president, so I have a lot of experience in investigating the history of these places that we're asked to investigate. And I used to run titles for a law office, so I can, find the real stories behind some of these properties that were rumored to be owned by different people. So I am the more practical. I mean, Carl isn't head in the clouds, ooh, it's a ghost or a demon. But I am the one who, as soon as a fact comes up, I will start looking at it from 3 different ways. I was just talking to Ken before we came on about an investigation I have that, they had one incident of voices coming over an electronic appliance and I have 3 different theories on what it could be, and now I need to investigate each one of those. And that was just one tiny bit of the investigation. She's got a whole bunch of things. But I'm always the one that asks, well, what else could it be? And a lot of people take that to think that I'm, a skeptic. Nope, she doesn't believe it. I am a skeptic in the practical, the real dictionary definition of the word, because a skeptic will not just accept anything on face value. They will need a little bit of proof. Sometimes you have people who call themselves skeptics that are what we call pseudo-skeptics. They don't believe anything. You could present some evidence to them, and then I'm not even going to look at that because I don't even believe in that.
Yes, is that any more rational?
How can you say no? How can you say that is not happening if you won't even look at the evidence? So you're as bad as a person who believes everything that comes along. So finally, I found myself with some time. I had found out about the Rhine Research Center from Lloyd Auerbach. John Kruth is the director of that, and Lloyd is a teacher there. I've had him for a lot of classes. The Rhine Institute started in the 1930s as the parapsychology department at Duke University in North Carolina. So J.B. Rhine was the head of that, and he and his wife Louisa, when J.B. Rhine retired from Duke, they kind of took their laboratory out of there and started their own place. It was called I forgot. It had a different name first. Humanities Studies or something like that. But it ended up being called the Rhine Research Center. So they offer many, many classes. I encourage people to look it up. It's like rhine.edu. I think that's it. Some of the classes I've taken are case studies. So you look at famous case studies that some of these people from the past, like Bill Roll and other parapsychologists that we've only heard of, you actually get to read their real cases and compare and, give your opinion on what you think was really going on. I've taken a class in ethics in field investigations. I've taken 3 or 4 field investigations classes that, the advantage of taking these classes is some people are like, well, you're going to get a degree. No, they offer a certificate saying you've done this many classes, and that's good enough for me. I'm not looking for a degree. I'm looking for information, and I'm looking for experience. And the way that the classes are run at the Rhine is you watch. Of course, they've all been done online for the past few years. So you've got these instructors that there will be one topic. Say you're talking about poltergeists. Will draw information from a whole bunch of references about poltergeists. Tell you a little bit about each. You do a little bit of reading from each of these sources, and you'll be assigned a discussion question for the week. You write your answer to this discussion question, and you post it on this forum. In part of your grade, you are required to read the other postings and respond to what their opinions are on this topic. Now, being parapsychology, there are no answers. There are, you can back up your theory with, whatever you come up with. You're encouraged to document it with other people's information. But as long as you say and have a very reasonable reason for what it is that you think, you'll get a passing grade. And you, like I said, you have to respond to someone else's. Other people are responding to yours. It's a discussion of people who are all taking classes, and it's not homogenous. There are people, I have met people, I just assumed everybody was like me, just kind of interested and wanted to be a better investigator and have more information. There are people who are mediums. There are people who are religious. There are people who have been, investigating forever. There are some people who are just casual, people just, found one case or another interesting. The last one I took was para-anthropology. And it's anthropology from a parapsychological viewpoint.
Stop saying that.
So it's not just about the mysticism and magic of these different tribes. Right. It's about how some of the activity that these people in different cultures think is normal, as opposed to what we think is normal. If you go to India and there's an elder that can do a certain performance, I don't want to say levitate because there are very few that can levitate, but, tell your fortune or whatever, and they're always right. They don't find that. They're not like, oh, she's a weirdo medium. They're like, oh, yeah, that's the elder. He said so.
It's just normal. It's inculcated
it's
to them.
It's normal to them. So
in
that was
society.
a very interesting class to take. So, I mean, they don't teach us what to think. I'm not going to say, well, I learned that in my paraanthropology class or my case studies class. I don't learn any facts in those classes except for what those old, what these people came up with. I learned how to think about them myself. And sometimes when I do podcasts and such, people will say I'm a parapsychologist. I want to make it clear, I'm not a parapsychologist. I'm a parapsychology student. And the way I like to describe that, the difference between those things is there are people who are astrophysicists or astronomers by trade. They have degrees, master's degrees, doctorate degrees. And then there are backyard stargazers. Are they any less important? No.
Both contribute.
You look in those books, and a lot of the stars, Pluto was discovered by some guy looking, if I'm right, there's some guy looking at the stars. People are discovering things all the time.
Clyde Tombaugh in 1931.
As a serious hobby. A guy in his backyard looking at birds, maybe finding a new species. Is he an ornithologist? No, he's a bird watcher. So I like to say that I'm a parapsychology student. It's, what I like to do.
Less onerous that way.
Yeah, I'm not an expert. It's not some fancy name just for the paranormal. It is an actual thing.
Yeah, there's been debate lately. Are there experts in paranormal research?
Do not ask that question. Do not ask that question because it depends on what your definition of an expert is.
It's like when a tree falls in the forest and if there's no one to hear it, does it make a sound? No, it's not like that at all, is it? No, but it is a conundrum because, yes and no. Are there experts? There are people who are knowledgeable. If they want to call themselves an expert, they're going to draw some flack. In a sense, they're experts because they know more than most people who research that or are interested in those subjects would be. But, expert, I don't know. Loaded term. Like skeptic, I'm not too fond of that term either because it's leading. If somebody is truly skeptical and has a real disdain for for paranormal research and parapsychology studies, then don't watch, don't listen, don't read. Nobody's forcing that on you. Just I respect somebody who said, it's not my interest really, or kind of end some conversations. But I'm not too interested. Or somebody said, I've never experienced it, so I can't believe because I've never seen it. That's fine. Or somebody's doggedly trying to disprove it, unless they have a real motive, like, let's pare this down. Yes. It's paring, Occam's razor. Let's find out what's real and what isn't, like get rid of all the meanderings, what can you ground yourself on? And that becomes fascinating. But skeptic, I don't know. Yeah, but Elise is skeptical.
Yes, our manager here says skeptical and cynical are two different animals, which is exactly.
I have bouts of cynicism. Yeah, I can be cynical. I like to,
Well, I mean, so those are the things that we do. Those are the things we believe in. He's got a lot more experience than I do.
It's been thrust upon me, yes.
There are people who walk, that sometimes I think they just want to meet Carl. That's why they call us.
Oh, gosh.
But it happened the other day. We were sitting in the diner and the waitress came over and said, those people over there want to talk to you. They know you from Ghost Hunters. I saw it happen. So, yes, it does
my
happen.
first response after the hello and thank you is, and this is Elise, my paranormal researcher.
So, but how does this apply to what we do as a paranormal investigative group? I believe that it's a back and forth of both of us. People approach you and you know what to ask them when it comes to. Honestly, a lot of people do approach us saying they have a demon and they want to get rid of it. If he wasn't here, my first thing would be, I don't do demons. I'm not religious. Who's your parish priest? And usually they say they don't have one, which I say, then how do you think you have a demon? Because it's a religious thing. It's not a thing. But get into that in another show.
Now, if you really believed or embraced an acceptance of demons, that they're real, they're around us, they want to undo us, they're infernal, they're minions of the devil. If you had a solid belief in that, it's the big dunno, D-U-N-N-O. But if you really believe that, would you be paranormal investigating? What would you?
I'd be in church. I'd be in church crying if I really thought there was a demon attached to me. But that's a whole nother show.
Yes,
So, we will get a call. This is happening, that's happening, or I have a demon. So we usually start our cases with just a casual phone call just to get a feel for the person. If it seems worth, without getting into too much of getting into some of the details of what's happening, but not the belief of what they think is happening yet. We take, that overview and then stop. Okay, we want to ask more about this, that, the other thing. Are you religious? If they sound way out there, I do have an intake form, but it has about 100 questions on it. So I try not to start with that. I try not to sit there and say, what are the ages of your children? How many children? Every single question the second time you talk to them, because they're going to be like, are we ever going to get to this? So we try to integrate those questions into there. But I mean, you do have to start off with, if we agree to investigate, if we pursue any other line, and really determine that it is probably not a demon, but probably something along another line, are you going to accept what we've come up with? And if they say no, we don't take the case. We refer them to somebody who says that they can handle a demon.
Yes, it's demon its own species. What is this?
If you're just putting angels all over the place and not listening to a word we say, we're not helping you. I mean, there are only really two reasons to do an investigation.
Right.
To help the client feel better. To figure out what's going on. Yeah. I mean,
and for our own edification, to learn as we go along.
To further the field.
Yeah. To contribute to the field, to the store of knowledge, which is always growing.
Because what I said before, like, why investigate a place that just looks creepy and old? It's not helping anybody.
Even though some of that knowledge is supposition, but we're still learning.
We've gone out to, sitting in the cemetery with a recorder going, mostly I did it last time because I wanted to see, on a windy day, how that recorder worked. So if I did have to go outside in one of our investigations, to be more familiar with the kind of background noise you get. Because as we were just sitting there doing, the regular EVP questions, as I would hear a truck go by, as I would hear a bird fly over, as the wind would pick up, I'd label those things. Now when I go back and listen to the audio, I know what those are going to sound like on my recorder. So should I do a real investigation under those conditions, I'll be ready for it. It won't be the first time I've used that recorder.
Yeah. What other factors do you? I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm interested in what you try to eliminate. Is if it's a spirit voice or maybe a spirit voice, what else could cause that?
It really depends on the circumstances where you are. Like I said, if someone says voices are coming through electronics, you have to look for some kind of interference, or you have to look for some kind of a pareidolia, audio pareidolia type thing. There are Slater Mill was a good example of that. We would go down into that water pit and people would hear crowds of people talking.
Yes.
I mean,
fondly I remember Slater Mill.
Yeah, I really think that was just water rushing, and I think people just happen, some people hear that a certain way. It's
a magnificent old building, and when I say old, that Slater Mill proper, of the 3 buildings on the campus, that was built and opened in 1793, and that is justifiably regarded as the seat of the American Industrial Revolution. And yes, what Elise is referring to is the grand old water wheel pit, the source of power for the mills. And now Slater Mill lent itself to ghost hunts, and we did have ghost hunts there.
Good times.
Yeah, started in 2008 and went right up to 2020, and wonderful times. Now, we didn't rely all on the paranormal phenomena. It was haunted. We had ghostly stuff happen there. It was wonderful. We got photographs of spirits there. We got recordings, and many EVP recordings. And
but the truth is, you have to admit that you guys had more activity happen during normal, everyday history tours.
I freely admit that,
at night with people looking for some kind of activity.
My word, the things we happened, there was no real concentration of activity in the separated day or night. I mean, there would be stuff happening. I think more would happen after there was a corporate dinner or some kind of event there. in the evening or classes. But yeah, we had visitors during the daytime that seemed to bring the ghosties out, and more than a few times we had a tour of the site interrupted by ghostly voices, disembodied voices, saying hello, or talking amongst themselves, things moving in front of people. I would say, folks, you almost get used to it. But I'd be, yes, happened during the daytime too.
But I'm not cynical. One night we were setting up for an evening tour, and we were in the water wheel pit, and he forgot something up in the mill. So he's like, I got to go back. Oh, do you want to stay here alone?
I almost remember what that was. Yeah.
Of course I want to stay here alone.
Sit down here in the water with the moldy water wheel
just
pit.
sat on a bench, looked around, nothing was going on, just taking note of things. So I said, well, let me close my eyes, see what I hear. The water was trickling by, and didn't seem to hear anything. And then I opened my eyes and the lights had gone out.
I didn't do it. I don't know how that happened.
Oh.
Yeah.
I still didn't hear anything. The light came back on, and he came back and said, how was your stay? And I'm like, well, the light went off and went out. I said, do any of these lights ever go off? I said, because those right there went off for about a minute.
Yeah.
And then came back on.
And they came back on. And we didn't have any fluctuation in the current. I can remember. I would have known that.
Nothing happened since, because he continued to work there after that.
They liked ladies being down there in the wheel pit, or maybe didn't like ladies being down there because historically women would not be employed at the building that had the water wheel pit and the machine shop. They could work on the third floor there, making garments and cloth and silk. But Slater Mill lent itself to ghost hunts because aside from the paranormal activity, which there was, I don't think we ever had a ghost hunt where something odd and inexplicable.
And how many people did you introduce to the history of that building, the history of, the factories that sprang up all around that one factory?
Well, that was my first love above the paranormal, was the history. I used to tell folks, you can't have the haunting without the history. One begets the other, I think. And in that building, Slater Mill, well, in the campus, we had 4, I believe it might have been 5 doors that when you unlock them, they would open on their own. And sometimes they would take a while to open on their own, if you unlock them. And there were, in the daytime, there were pigeons. It sounded like a woman weeping, creaks, cracks, groans of an old building. Yeah, even if there wasn't any paranormal activity, which there was, it would have been nice.
Creaks don't always mean ghosts.
How do you know that? Because
I wish we could have got this while we were online, because I have a stairway here that if you go up and down it enough, and then you stay upstairs, about 20 minutes later, half an hour
about
later,
20 minutes. That's a long time to wait.
You start hearing the stairs creak in order, like something followed you up here.
Well, surely there's ghostly presence if you hear that.
I come up here enough that I've put 2 and 2 together.
Yep. That
this is what's going on. That
Well, the floorboards, I don't know if it's affected by weather, but the unique grain of wood in the wooden stairs.
It's a wood.
You step on them, they expand somewhat. After a while, the whole board
come back and
contract.
You're pushing them down, they pop back up.
But it does it in order of your footsteps.
Yeah.
So you thump,
it's really cool.
Tink, tink.
Yeah.
Well, you spoiled that, didn't you?
Yeah. Well,
I like knowing what.
This is a museum. The room where we are is upstairs, the archives where I work, but downstairs is a museum with many, many, many
artifacts,
old
items,
so
memories.
If there's anybody watching who claims to be one of those people that can do a little bit of psychometry and put your hand on something, this water bottle was used by George Washington. Hey, you're welcome to come by and tell me some stories, because that's always my introduction when I go into a case and we start trying to do EVP if it's an old house.
Yes.
I say, I'm an historian. I study the people, the places, the things of the past. So if there are any of those people of the past here, let's talk. And nobody's answered me yet.
Yeah. Besides being a curator of a modest museum, but a very full museum, you're also a cemetery conservator.
Oh,
Clean, repair stones, police the yard. And you always say something I noticed when you go into a cemetery.
Actually, I had a cemetery picture. I lost it. When I go in, because we use weed whackers, and if it's big enough, a lawnmower, a leaf blower. I don't really like them, but it gets it done a lot faster than raking. And I walk in and I apologize for all the noise that we're going to make into the usually peaceful space. We do our cleanup and just say, hope you like it as we leave.
Maybe that's why you get touched in cemeteries so much and get all those neat EVP in cemeteries.
I wish.
No, you don't, though.
I wish. I have 100 cemeteries in town.
Yes.
And we've cleaned most of them. And no.
So what other pictures have you clicked on?
I got a picture of you in the hat.
I see that. That's my Doc Holliday picture.
There's a picture of your book. You want that?
Yes.
Oh, there's one more I want to show because we have like 5 minutes left.
Okay, wow.
Oh, that's not your book. Wait a minute.
No, that's
getting
my
as
book.
bad as you not being able to see. It's right there. You don't have to hold it up. We can talk about our clients because they've been on television, so everybody knows their story.
Oh, yes.
This is Joe and Danica with us.
Yep.
We were on an episode of A Haunting.
Inner Demons.
Inner Demons, it was called. These are the clients. This is the gentleman that was having a problem. And what was interesting about that was after we did the show, which was recorded during COVID, which was quite an experience. We all had to stay separated. The premiere, they had a party, invited all their friends, and invited us to watch it with them.
I had 25 people there in that
Which
room.
was, you don't know what the producers are going to put together.
Yeah, we hadn't seen a rush of
in
it
a
or anything
string
before. We
of,
just seen stills.
Yeah. But luckily they did a good job.
Yeah, we were happy with that. It was pretty accurate.
I didn't want to have to be saying, I didn't say that.
Well, they had actors portray us, and that actor, he was, well, he had to audition, and he's an excellent actor, I think. But he was cast because of his resemblance to me.
And my actress was just gorgeous. So she was a tall, thin redhead. So
well,
I was
a little
quite pleased with that.
You got the gorgeous right, but yeah, I know what you mean. Oh, I thank the actor who played me. I've kept in touch with him. I said, thank you for adding, thank you for deducting about 30 pounds from my frame and adding 3 inches to my height.
Yeah. So if you want to see Inner Demons, that is on Discovery Plus, A Haunting. But occasionally the Travel Channel will have a marathon of season 11, I believe it is, that was on. And there'll be some other people that you know and recognize on that season also. So look for that. And what other pictures do I have? I'm going to go through the pictures because
demon faces.
I don't have the demon faces, do
Okay,
I?
no.
I'm sorry.
Well, our producer does.
Yeah,
You might
I thought
put
they
them up.
had been lifted up there.
Well,
But we're going to have more shows.
Oh, of course we will. Because in my repertoire, I have well, it's rare to get a picture of a ghost, one you can believe. I have 2, and I know they're authentic, 2 pictures of demon face, demon visage.
Yeah.
I say authentic. I didn't take them. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know what they are. They're strange looking.
When we do a demon show, we'll show those.
Yes. We'll do a show on that.
Because we are going to have guests. This will be on every other Thursday at 8:00. So since today is August 25th, the next one will be September 8th.
8th.
Don't have a guess for that one yet, but we're trying to figure something out. We got somebody for the one
Another
after that.
picture of the last Ocean State Paracon in Harrisville. 2019. Yeah. Out the outside before.
We were all outside and sweating. That was hot.
We used to go into the Assembly Theater to cool off. Yeah.
The other interesting thing I had uploaded was this is an ad I found in a 1860s 1860s Providence Journal. I thought this was pretty interesting. It was an ad for a clairvoyant. And this is kind of hard to read, so I'll read it aloud. You will find one of the best independent clairvoyant mediums for the examination of all diseases the human frame is subject to in Dr. Prescott's wife at his residence at the head of Gould's Lane, east of Clabrick Street, a few steps from Broad Street. So this was in Providence, and this was a doctor whose wife claimed to be a clairvoyant that could diagnose people's illnesses. So this is something I like to look into a little more one of these days. That's just why I had the photo there. But
has it changed though? Mrs. Warren was a very renowned clairvoyant. And, we still have that term. People with a propensity to see beyond what is normally viewed.
Well, energy healing is something that is studied by parapsychology and has had some good results. as we get into certain each topic during these shows, hopefully we'll have a speaker that is knowledgeable on that one topic. But as we get into each topic, we can break that down. And I have read more peer-reviewed studies in the past year than I did in 4 years of college. Trust me. Every topic we covered in all of my classes had
That's very
peer-reviewed
thorough curriculum.
studies
Yeah.
from current times back to the SPR, and that would be a whole nother show talking about the development of the study of parapsychology.
Somebody could say to a Rhines Center student, I go, well, you're not accredited, are you? Did I ever say we were? This is just fascinating study. If you're not interested, don't bother with it.
Yeah, I mean, the classes are taught by people who are very knowledgeable, and if they're not participating in studies themselves, which I know John Kruth does have an ongoing study right now that I can talk about in another show. Lloyd has looked in. I mean, Lloyd's been on TV forever.
Yeah.
But not only on TV, just been talking about this forever. And he's a natural. He is a very smart man who can gather all the information together and present it in an understandable way, where if you're not one to sit around and read an abstract in a study, you can learn from listening to him. He actually has a show on Sunday nights, and he answers a lot of questions about that. So it looks like it is 9 o'clock.
I could talk for another hour.
Nobody doubts that.
I know it. I could, but no, you've
so we'd like to say thank you to Ken for keeping all the comments and photos and whatnot under control.
Oh,
as
my
I get
word.
used to the whole StreamYard thing. He's made it very easy to understand. Thank you to George
and
too
hello,
for taking
Dave.
some time.
We didn't take time to say hello to everybody who came up on the screen. We did read and are reading your comments.
Yeah, I'm still getting good at this.
We just didn't want to take too much time away from the show and say hello to everybody. We're just so grateful that you are part of
David
our family
Lorraine,
here.
Sarah, Pure Steel, Laura. Oh, I got to Lorraine already. Dave Grist.
Dave Grist just came in. He said, "Sorry, I'm late. I'm here."
Yes. Yes. Thank you to everyone who had some kind of a comment. And you know what? Find us on Facebook. Messengers, us a topic you'd like to see covered, a guest you'd like to see appear. If you don't like my hair, I don't know. Questions, comments,
just wait
whatever.
Another week, it'll change.
Just write to us. Thank you very much, Jason. Because it's been a long week for both of us, and we're glad this all turned out right tonight. We won't even go into that. But it's 83 degrees up here, and I thought I had the air conditioner fixed today, so that's just the icing on the cake.
Repairman here, but he'll have to come back, I think.
All right, so I think that our maestro will play us out now.
Yes,
and
join us back on
see you
September 8th in 2 weeks.
8 o'clock Thursday.
Good night, folks.